The USS Falcon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Haven system. Through the view screen, the crew could see the battle in progress. 3 Valkcon warships hung in space like birds of prey, their weapons firing continuously at the colony below. "Take us in slow," Captain Jake Morrison ordered. "Keep the cloak at maximum. I want detailed scans of those ships." Amy Brooks worked her console with practiced efficiency. Data began flowing across her screens, showing the positions and capabilities of each Valkcon vessel. The largest ship, the Crimson Talon, was in the center. The other 2 flanked it on either side, forming a triangle pattern around the planet. "Their shields are standard military grade," Amy reported, "but they're not expecting any resistance. Look at their formation, it's designed for bombardment, not defense." Jake leaned forward in his chair, studying the enemy ships. The Valkcons were overconfident. They had probably done this before, attacking colonies that could not fight back. That overconfidence was going to be their downfall. "What's the status of the colony?" he asked. "Shields are down to 20%, Amy said, her voice tight. "They're evacuating civilians to underground shelters, but they're running out of time." On the main view screen, another volley of energy weapons struck the colony's shields. The protective barrier flickered and sparked. It would not last much longer. Jake could see the glow of fires on the planet's surface where some shots had already broken through. "Captain, I'm picking up communications between the Valkcon ships," the communications officer said. "Commander Zarakel is ordering his ships to target the civilian shelters directly." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Targeting civilians was not just wrong, it was evil. These Valkcons were not warriors. They were murderers. "Amy, I need a plan to take out that flagship," Jake said. "Something fast and decisive." Amy's fingers danced across her console. She pulled up schematics of the Valkcon ships, analyzing their design for weaknesses. Her mind worked through possibilities, calculating angles and trajectories. "I've got something," she said after a moment. "If we decloak right here directly in front of the flagship, we'll have a clean shot at their forward shield generator. Our railguns can punch through before they even know we're there. Without forward shields, their bridge will be exposed." "How close do we need to be?" Jake asked. "Close, maybe 500 meters. Danny Price whistled from his engineering station. "That's point-blank range, Captain. If they get a shot off, we'll take heavy damage." "They won't have time to shoot," Lisa Ortiz said from weapons. "Not if we hit them fast and hard. I can have railgun rounds through their shields in 2 seconds after decloak." Jake stood and walked to the view screen. He could see the Valkcon flagship clearly now, its dark red hull gleaming in the light of New Haven's sun. In a few moments, he was going to appear right in front of that ship. The Valkcons would be shocked. The whole galaxy would be shocked. "Danny, can the cloak handle a combat decloak?" Jake asked. "I need it to drop instantly, no fade in." "I've been working on that since we left Earth," Danny replied with a grin. "I can drop the cloak so fast it'll be like someone flipped a switch. 1 second we're invisible, next second we're right in their face." "Good, because we're only going to get one chance at this." Jake turned to his crew. They were all watching him, ready to follow his orders. These people trusted him with their lives. He was about to put all of them at risk, along with Earth's biggest secret. But looking at the view screen, watching another barrage slam into the dying colony shields, he knew there was no other choice. "Here's what we're going to do," Jake said. "We move into position directly in front of the flagship. Amy, you'll handle navigation. Get us close 500 meters like you said. Danny, I want the cloak ready to drop on my command. Lisa, the moment we decloak, you fire everything we've got at their forward shields and weapon systems." "Yes, sir," they replied in unison. "Once we engage, those other 2 ships are going to come after us. Amy, be ready to maneuver. Use the flagship as cover if you need to. Our goal is to disable their command ship and force a retreat. If they want a fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." The Falcon began to move, gliding silently toward the Valkcon formation. They passed within kilometers of the 2 escort ships, but the Valkcons never saw them. The human stealth technology was far beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. "Position in 30 seconds, Amy said, her voice calm despite the tension. Jake returned to his command chair. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. "All stations, report readiness." "Weapons hot and ready," Lisa confirmed. "Engines at full power, cloak stable," Danny added. "Navigation locked," Amy said. "We're in position." The Falcon hung in space directly in front of the Crimson Talon. Through the view screen, Jake could see the Valkcon bridge. He could see Commander Zarakel standing there, completely unaware that a human warship was hovering just meters away. On the planet below, the colony's shields flashed red. They were down to 5%. The Etheri were out of time. "Captain, the flagship is charging weapons," Amy said urgently. "They're preparing to fire on the civilian shelters." Jake's voice was cold and hard. "Not today, they're not. All hands, brace for combat." Danny dropped the cloak. "Lisa, fire." Danny's fingers stabbed at his console. The energy field surrounding the Falcon collapsed in an instant. One moment there was empty space in front of the Crimson Talon. The next moment, a human warship materialized out of nothing, its weapons already glowing with deadly light. On the Valkcon bridge, alarms began screaming. Sarakel spun around, his reptilian eyes wide with shock. "What is that?" he shouted. "Where did it come from?" He never got an answer. The Falcon's railguns fired, launching solid metal projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. The rounds crossed the distance in microseconds, slamming into the Crimson Talon's forward shields. The Valkcon shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. They shattered like glass. The railgun rounds punched through the shield generator, through the armor plating, through the weapons control center. Explosions rippled across the flagship's forward section. Its main guns went dark, disabled before they could fire a single shot. "Direct hit," Lisa reported with satisfaction. "Their forward weapons are destroyed. Shield generator is offline." But the Falcon was not done. Even as the Valkcon crew scrambled to respond, quantum torpedoes launched from the human ship's tubes. These weapons phased through normal space, bypassing the Crimson Talon's remaining shields. They detonated directly against the hull, tearing open armor and venting atmosphere into space. The Crimson Talon lurched to the side, its engines firing erratically as it tried to maneuver away. But it was too late. The flagship was crippled, its weapons destroyed, its shields down. "Target neutralized," Amy said. Jake looked at the view screen. The two escort ships were turning toward them now, their weapons powering up. The battle was just beginning. "Here they come," he said. "Show them what humans can do." The three massive warships dropped out of hyperspace like predators emerging from the darkness. Their hulls were dark red, almost black, and covered with sharp angles that made them look like floating weapons. These were Valkcon ships, and they had come to New Haven with only one purpose: to take what they wanted. Commander Zarakel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon. His reptilian eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he watched the peaceful colony appear on his screens. The Etheri who lived there had no real weapons, no warships, nothing that could stop him. This would be easy. "Begin the attack," he ordered, his voice cold and hard. The Valkcon ships opened fire. Bright streams of energy poured from their weapons, striking the colony's shields. The shields flickered and sparked under the assault. On the planet below, alarms began to sound. The Etheri were a gentle species, insect-like beings who valued peace and healing above all else. They had never expected this. In the colony's command center, the Etheri leaders watched their defenses crumble. Their shields would not last long. Thousands of civilians needed to reach the underground shelters, but there was not enough time. "Send distress signals," the colony leader ordered, his antennae trembling with fear. "Send them everywhere. Someone must help us." The signals went out across the stars, desperate pleas for help transmitted on every frequency. But the Etheri's allies were far away, too far to arrive in time. The colony leader knew this, but he had to try. His people deserved a chance to survive. Far across the system, beyond the range of normal sensors, something else moved through the darkness. The USS Falcon glided through space like a ghost. No scanner could detect it. No eye could see it. The ship was completely invisible, wrapped in a cloak of energy that bent light and deflected all forms of detection. On the Falcon's bridge, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, reviewing the latest surveillance data. The Falcon was on a classified mission, watching and listening, gathering information about this region of space. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council only 2 years ago, and Earth wanted to know everything about their new neighbors. Jake was in his early 40s, with gray starting to show at his temples. He had a calm demeanor that made his crew trust him, but his eyes showed the weight of command. Right now, those eyes were focused on the communications officer. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple distress signals," the officer reported. "They're coming from the Etheri colony at New Haven." "Put it on speaker," Jake said. The bridge filled with the desperate voice of the Etheri colony leader. The message was clear. They were under attack and had no way to defend themselves. Children were dying. Their shields were failing. Lieutenant Amy Brooks turned from her tactical station. She was young, only 28, but she had proven herself brilliant in combat situations. Captain, our sensors show 3 Valkcon warships attacking the colony. The Aetheri have no military presence there. Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had read reports about the Valkcons. They were an aggressive empire that took what they wanted from weaker species. The Galactic Council had complained about them before, but complaints meant nothing without force to back them up. How long until the colony falls? Jake asked. At this rate, maybe 3 hours, Amy replied. Their shields are already at 60%. From the engineering station, Danny Price spoke up. He was a stocky man with oil stains on his uniform and a gift for making impossible repairs. Captain, we could be there in 40 minutes if we push the engines. Jake stood and walked to the view screen, his hands clasped behind his back. This was the decision he had been dreading since the Falcon left Earth. The ship's cloaking technology was humanity's biggest secret. No other species in the galaxy knew humans had developed stealth systems this advanced. If they revealed it now, everything would change. But if they did nothing, thousands of innocent beings would die. Sir, permission to speak freely, said Sergeant Lisa Ortiz from the weapons station. She was a tough Marine who had seen combat before Earth joined the galactic community. We didn't come all the way out here just to watch people get slaughtered. Jake looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. He thought about Earth, about the politicians and admirals who had ordered him to keep the Falcon hidden. But he also thought about the Aetheri children hiding underground while death rained from the sky. Danny, how's our cloak holding up? Jake asked. Solid as a rock, Captain. I can keep us invisible even during high-speed maneuvers. And our weapons? Lisa smiled grimly. The railguns are fully charged. Quantum torpedoes are ready. We've got enough firepower to make those Valkcons regret waking up this morning. Jake took a deep breath. He knew this decision would follow him for the rest of his life. It might even start a war. But he also knew it was the right thing to do. Set course for New Haven, he ordered. Maximum speed. Battle stations. The bridge erupted into controlled activity. Amy's fingers flew across her console as she plotted the fastest route. Danny rerouted power to the engines, pushing them beyond normal safety limits. Lisa began running checks on every weapon system. Captain, Amy said quietly, once we decloak and engage, everyone will know. Earth's secret will be out. I know, Jake replied, but some secrets aren't worth keeping if good people die because of them. The Falcon turned and accelerated, invisible engines burning bright. The ship raced toward New Haven, toward a battle that would change everything. Jake stood on his bridge and watched the stars blur past. He thought about what he was about to do, about revealing humanity's hidden strength to a galaxy that thought humans were weak. The Valkcons were about to learn differently. Back at New Haven, the bombardment continued. The colony's shields dropped to 40%, then 30%. The Aetheri evacuated as fast as they could, carrying their young to the shelters. They had no hope left. No one was coming to save them. But they were wrong. In the darkness between the stars, the Falcon was coming. And with it came a message that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity was done hiding. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at New Haven. The USS Falcon remained on patrol near the colony, but now there was no need for the cloak. The ship moved openly through space, its running lights visible to all sensors. Humanity was done hiding. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the peaceful planet rotate below. The colony had recovered quickly from the attack. New buildings were rising from the ashes and the Aetheri people were returning to their normal lives. It felt good to see that their sacrifice had meant something. Captain, we have incoming ships, Amy Brooks reported from her station. Friendly signatures. It's the Eagle and the Hawk, Jake smiled. The reinforcements had finally arrived. 2 more human destroyers, both equipped with the same stealth technology as the Falcon. Admiral Carter was making a statement by sending them, showing the galaxy that Earth had more than one advanced ship. The 3 vessels formed up in orbit around New Haven, a visible sign that humanity would protect its allies. The Aetheri loved having them there. Every day, colony leaders sent messages of thanks and gifts of food and art to the human crews. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth, the communications officer announced. It's Admiral Carter. Private channel. Jake nodded and moved to his ready room, the small office adjacent to the bridge. The screen on his desk flickered to life, showing Helen Carter's stern face. "Captain Morrison," she said formally. "Or should I say Commodore Morrison? Congratulations on your promotion." Jake blinked in surprise. "Commodore? Admiral, I'm not sure I deserve that. The President and I disagree. What you did at New Haven required courage and quick thinking. You saved lives and showed the galaxy what humanity stands for. That deserves recognition." Helen's expression softened slightly. "But the promotion comes with new responsibilities, Jake. I'm creating a new task force and I want you to command it. 3 ships to start, yours and the 2 that just arrived. Your mission will be to patrol the frontier regions, responding to threats against peaceful species." Jake leaned back in his chair, processing this information. "You want us to be the galaxy's protectors." "I want you to be Earth's representatives," Helen corrected. "Show them that humans keep their promises. Show them that we'll stand up to bullies like the Valkcons. But Jake, be careful. One wrong move and you could start a war we're not ready for." "Understood, Admiral." "Good. I'm also pleased to inform you that we've signed a mutual defense treaty with the Etheri Collective. They're offering us access to their medical technology in exchange for military protection and engineering assistance. It's the first formal alliance Earth has made since joining the Galactic Council." Jake felt a surge of pride. The battle had not just saved lives. It had forged a real friendship between 2 species. "There's one more thing," Helen continued. "Ambassador Palmer reports that several other species have quietly reached out to Earth, asking about possible defense agreements. The Minari, the Centaurans, even the Thorians are interested. Your actions opened doors we didn't even know existed." After the call ended, Jake returned to the bridge. His crew looked at him expectantly, and he realized they had probably overheard part of the conversation. "Well, Commodore?" Amy asked with a slight grin. "What are our orders?" Jake couldn't help but smile. "We keep doing what we're doing. Protecting those who need protection. Being the good guys." "I can live with that," Lisa Ortiz said from her station. Danny Price laughed. "Does this mean I get to keep pushing the engines past safety limits?" "Only when necessary," Jake replied. "Try not to blow us up." The crew relaxed into easy conversation, but Jake noticed Amy still watching him thoughtfully. After a few minutes, she approached his chair. "Sir, can I speak freely?" she asked quietly. "Always. What we did here, it changed everything. Not just for the galaxy, but for us. We're not just explorers or observers anymore. We're warriors, protectors. Do you think we're ready for that?" Jake considered the question carefully. He looked around the bridge at his crew, these brave men and women who had followed him into battle without hesitation. Then he looked at the view screen, at the peaceful colony orbiting below them. "I think we've always been ready," he said finally. "Humanity has survived everything the universe threw at us. Wars, disasters, our own worst impulses. We made it to the stars because we never gave up, and because we always tried to do what was right. That's not going to change." Amy nodded slowly. "The galaxy is learning that the hard way. Down on New Haven, the Etheri were holding a ceremony. Speaker Thera stood before a massive crowd of her people, all gathered in the rebuilt Central Plaza. Behind her, a new monument rose into the sky, a tall structure of gleaming metal and crystal. "We dedicate this memorial to the humans who saved our colony," Thera announced, her voice carrying across the plaza. "Let it stand for all time as a reminder that courage and compassion exist in the universe. Let it remind us that we are not alone." The crowd erupted in cheers. On the monument, names were inscribed in both Etheri script and human letters. Jake Morrison, Amy Brooks, Danny Price, Lisa Ortiz, and every member of the Falcon's crew. Below the names was a simple phrase in multiple languages. They came when no one else would. News of the ceremony spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Images of the monument appeared on news feeds across dozens of worlds. Humanity's reputation continued to grow, not just as warriors, but as protectors of the innocent. On the Valkcon homeworld, Commander Zarakel stood before the High Command, his scales pale with shame. The Council of Military Leaders glared at him with contempt. "You were defeated by a single ship," the Supreme Commander hissed. "You have brought dishonor to the Dominion. Their technology is beyond anything we have encountered," Zarakel protested. "They appeared from nothing. Their weapons ignore our shields. How was I supposed to fight that?" "You were supposed to win," another council member snapped. "Now the entire galaxy knows that the mighty Valkcon fleet can be beaten. Do you know how many colonies are refusing our demands now? How many species are emboldened by your failure? The Supreme Commander rose from his seat, towering over Zarakel. You are stripped of your rank and command. Get out of my sight. As Zarakel left the chamber in disgrace, the Valkcon leaders discussed their options. Some wanted immediate revenge against humanity. Others argued for caution, pointing out that they knew nothing about Earth's true military strength. In the end, pragmatism won. The Valkcons would not seek direct conflict with humanity, at least not yet. Instead, they would watch and wait, gathering intelligence and preparing for a future confrontation. The humans had won this round, but the game was far from over. Back on the Falcon, Jake received a message from an unexpected source. It was a text-only transmission, encrypted and anonymous, but the words were clear. To the humans who saved New Haven, you have given hope to species across the galaxy who live in fear of stronger neighbors. Many of us lack the strength to fight, but we remember kindness. If you ever need friends, you will find them among the small and the weak. We owe you our thanks. The message was signed only with a symbol Jake did not recognize. He saved it to his personal files, touched by the sentiment. As the weeks turned into months, the task force under Jake's command grew. More ships joined them, both human vessels and ships from allied species. The Etheri contributed medical frigates. The Minari sent scouts and information gatherers. Even the Centaurans, one of the older and more respected species in the Council, assigned ships to coordinate with the human task force. Together, they patrolled the frontier regions, responding to distress calls and deterring aggression. They stopped a Krek slaver raid on a mining colony. They mediated a border dispute between two hostile species. They evacuated civilians from a planet threatened by a natural disaster. With each mission, humanity's reputation grew. Species that once dismissed Earth as unimportant now sought their friendship and protection. The Galactic Council began consulting with human representatives on security matters. Ambassador Greg Palmer found himself increasingly influential in Council politics. But Jake never forgot the lesson of New Haven. Power had to be used carefully and responsibly. Every time he gave an order that might lead to combat, he thought about the consequences. Every time he positioned his ships near a potential conflict, he considered whether violence was truly necessary. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of that change. They had revealed themselves not as conquerors seeking dominion, but as protectors willing to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. It was a role that came with enormous responsibility, but it was one that Jake and his crew embraced fully. On a quiet evening, Jake stood alone on the Falcon's observation deck, looking out at the stars. The ship was at rest near a beautiful nebula, its colors swirling in shades of purple and blue. Somewhere out there, across thousands of light years, Earth spun peacefully in space, home to billions of people who were just beginning to understand their place in the galaxy. Jake thought about how far humanity had come, from a single planet to the stars, from isolated primitives to defenders of the innocent, from hiding in the shadows to standing proudly in the light. The journey had only just begun, but Jake was ready for whatever came next. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy with a simple message. The two Valkcon escort ships broke formation and accelerated toward the Falcon. Their weapon ports glowed with building energy. These were warships designed for conquest, armed with the best technology the Valkcon Dominion could produce. They had never been defeated in battle. That record was about to change. Incoming fire from both ships, Amy Brooks called out from her station. They're targeting our engines and weapons. Evasive pattern Delta 3, Captain Jake Morrison ordered calmly. Take us over the flagship. The Falcon rolled and dove, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for a ship of its size. The vessel streaked over the crippled Crimson Talon, using the larger ship as a shield between itself and the attacking escorts. Energy beams cut through space where the Falcon had been just seconds before, missing their target completely. On board one of the escort ships, the Valkcon gunnery officer hissed in frustration. How is it moving like that? No ship that size should be able to maneuver so quickly. But the Falcon could and did. Danny Price had modified the ship's engines and structural supports to handle extreme gravitational forces. The human crew wore special suits that helped them withstand the crushing acceleration. While the modifications would have torn apart a normal ship, the Falcon danced through space like a fighter craft. They're splitting up, Amy reported. One going high, one going low. They're trying to trap us in a crossfire. Jake's mind raced through possibilities. The Valkcon ships were bigger and more heavily armed than the Falcon. In a straight fight, the humans might lose. But this was not going to be a straight fight. Lisa, target the ship going high, Jake ordered. Give them a spread of torpedoes. Make them think twice about getting close. With pleasure, Captain, Lisa Ortiz replied. 4 quantum torpedoes launched from the Falcon's tubes, arcing upward toward the approaching Valkcon ship. The Valkcon captain saw them coming and reinforced his shields, confident they would hold. Energy shields could stop anything, except they could not stop quantum torpedoes. The weapons phased through the shields as if they were not there. They detonated against the hull in a chain of explosions that tore open the ship's port side. Atmosphere vented into space. Secondary explosions rippled across the vessel as power conduits overloaded. The Valkcon ship veered away, trailing debris and gas. It was not destroyed, but it was badly hurt. Its captain made the smart decision and began to retreat, limping away from the battle at reduced speed. 1 down, Lisa said. 1 to go. But the remaining escort was not running. Its captain was either braver or more foolish than his companion. He brought his ship around in a tight turn, coming at the Falcon from below while the humans were focused on the retreating vessel. Captain, the second ship is locking weapons, Amy warned. They're preparing to fire at point-blank range. Jake saw the trap. If the Falcon tried to dodge, they would expose themselves to fire from the crippled flagship. If they stayed still, the escort would tear them apart. They needed a third option. Danny, how much power can you give me? Jake asked. For what? The engineer replied. Everything. I want every drop of power you can pull from the reactor right now. Danny's fingers flew across his console. You're going to blow something up if I do this, Captain. Better the ship than us. Do it. Power surged through the Falcon systems. The lights on the bridge brightened, then dimmed as Danny redirected energy flow. Every non-essential system went dark. Life support dropped to minimum. All of that power flowed into the engines and weapons. Amy, full burn on my mark, Jake said. Straight at that ship. Lisa, I want a full railgun barrage, everything we've got. His crew stared at him for a moment. He was ordering them to charge directly at an enemy warship that outgunned them. It was either brilliant or insane. Maybe both. Mark, Jake said. The Falcon's engines roared to life with more power than they had ever produced. The ship leaped forward, accelerating so fast that the inertial dampener struggled to keep up. They raced toward the Valkcon escort on a collision course. The Valkcon captain saw them coming and hesitated. This made no sense. Why was the human ship charging directly at him? It had to be a trick. He prepared to fire, but that moment of confusion cost him. The Falcon's railguns opened up at maximum rate of fire. Solid projectiles poured from the human ship in a continuous stream. Hundreds of rounds fired in just seconds. The Valkcon shields tried to stop them, but railgun rounds did not care about energy shields. They punched through and hammered into the ship's hull. Armor plating shattered. Hull breaches appeared across the escort's forward section. The Valkcon captain realized his mistake too late. He tried to turn away, but his ship was too slow. The barrage continued, relentless and devastating. Closest approach in 5 seconds, Amy said, her voice tight. 4, 3, 2. At the last possible moment, the Falcon rolled hard to starboard. The ship twisted in space, passing within meters of the Valkcon escort. As they passed, Lisa fired one more quantum torpedo at point-blank range. The weapon phased through the escort's side armor and detonated inside the engine room. The Valkcon ship's engines exploded in a ball of blue fire. The vessel went dark, tumbling through space with no power and no control. It was finished. All enemy ships disabled, Amy reported, breathing hard. The flagship is drifting, first escort is retreating, second escort has no power. Jake allowed himself a small smile. Open a channel. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Captain. You're broadcasting across the system. Jake stood and faced the view screen. He knew that his words would be picked up by every ship, every station, every listening post within a dozen light years. The galaxy was about to meet humanity. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Falcon, representing the Human Defense Fleet, he said clearly. We are transmitting to Commander Zarakel of the Valkcon Dominion. Your attack on the Aetheri colony of New Haven is illegal and unprovoked. Your ships are disabled. You will withdraw immediately from Aetheri space. There was a long silence. Then a channel opened from the crippled flagship. Zarakel's reptilian face appeared on the screen. His scales were pale with shock and his eyes blazed with fury. "What are you?" the Valkcon commander demanded. "What kind of weapons are those? How did you appear from nowhere?" "That's not your concern," Jake replied coldly. "What matters is this. Humanity will not stand by while peaceful species are attacked. This is your only warning. Withdraw now, or we will destroy what's left of your fleet." Zarakel's clawed hands gripped his command chair. He looked like he wanted to continue the fight, but he was not stupid. His flagship was crippled, one escort was fleeing, and the other was dead in space. The mysterious human ship had defeated his entire battle group in less than 15 minutes. "This is not over," Zarakel hissed. "The Dominion will hear of this insult." "Let them hear," Jake said. "Let the whole galaxy hear. Earth stands with those who cannot defend themselves. Anyone who attacks innocent people will answer to us." He made a cutting gesture and the channel closed. On the view screen they watched as the Crimson Talon's engines flickered to life. The flagship began to limp away, moving slowly on damaged thrusters. The retreating escort matched its speed. Together they crawled out of the system, beaten and humiliated. The crew of the Falcon watched them go in silence. They had won. A single human ship had defeated 3 Valkcon warships and saved thousands of lives, but they all knew that this victory came with a price. "Captain," Amy said quietly. "Our cloak, our weapons, everything. The galaxy knows now," Jake nodded. "Yes, they do. And things are going to get very interesting from here on out." Down on New Haven, the Aetheri watched their sensors in disbelief. The attacking ships were leaving. They were saved. A voice came over the communication channels, one of the colony leaders speaking with wonder. "Unknown human vessel, this is New Haven Colony. We thought we were dead. You saved us. How can we ever thank you?" Jake smiled. "No thanks necessary. Just take care of your people. Falcon out." He sat back in his chair and looked at his crew. They had changed history today. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not with words, but with action. The age of hiding was over. News of the battle at New Haven spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major species had heard the story. A human ship had appeared from nowhere, defeated a Valkcon battle group, and vanished just as mysteriously. The recordings of the battle played on every news feed, analyzed by military experts and politicians across 1,000 worlds. In the council chambers on the space station Unity Prime, the galactic representatives gathered for an emergency session. The vast circular room was filled with beings from dozens of species, all talking at once. The noise was deafening. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Greg Palmer, representing humanity. He was a man in his 50s with silver hair and a calm expression that hid the nervousness he felt inside. Around him, the other ambassadors demanded answers. "How long has your species possessed this technology?" demanded the Thorian ambassador, a large bear-like creature with brown fur. "You joined the council 2 years ago claiming to be a peaceful, developing species. Yet you have military technology beyond most of ours. The question we must ask," added the Krellin representative, a floating jellyfish-like being in a tank of blue liquid, "is what else are the humans hiding? What other secrets have they kept from this council?" Greg waited for the room to quiet down before speaking. His voice carried clearly through the chamber's amplification system. "The human government has never lied to this council," he said firmly. "We stated that we came in peace, and that remains true. We also stated that we would defend ourselves and our allies if necessary. That also remains true. Our military capabilities are our own business. The council charter does not require any species to reveal their defensive technologies." "Defensive?" the Valkcon ambassador nearly shouted. He was a tall reptilian like Zarakel, with dark green scales and yellow eyes. "Your ship attacked our vessels without provocation." "Your vessels were bombarding a civilian colony," Greg replied coldly. "They were preparing to target shelter facilities filled with women and children. Captain Morrison's actions were entirely justified under galactic law, which permits intervention to prevent massacre of non-combatants." The room erupted in argument again. Some species supported the human position. Others were angry about the deception. A few were simply scared of what humanity might do with such advanced technology. The council speaker, a wise old Centauran with pale blue skin, raised his hand for silence. "Ambassador Palmer, I believe the council deserves an explanation. How did your species develop cloaking technology that our sensors cannot detect?" Greg took a breath. This was the part he had been dreading. When humanity first ventured into space, we were cautious, he began. We spent years observing the galaxy before making contact. What we saw concerned us. We saw the Valkcon Dominion conquer smaller species. We saw the Krek slavers operate freely in neutral space. We saw peaceful colonies destroyed because they could not defend themselves. He paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled representatives. Earth decided that if we were going to join the galactic community, we needed insurance. We developed our technology in secret, not because we wanted to deceive anyone, but because we wanted to survive. And as yesterday proved, that decision was the right one. The speaker nodded slowly. I see. And how many ships with this technology does humanity possess? Greg smiled slightly. Enough. That answer did not satisfy anyone, but Greg refused to elaborate. The truth was that Earth had 12 stealth ships operational, with more under construction. But the galaxy did not need to know the exact numbers. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Across the chamber, the Etheri delegate rose to speak. She was a small insect-like being with delicate features and large compound eyes. Her voice was soft but carried clearly. I am Speaker Thera of the Etheri Collective, she said. I wish to address this council. Yesterday, my people faced extinction. The Valkcons came to take our world. We have no army, no weapons, no way to fight. We sent distress signals, but no one came. No one except the humans. She turned to look directly at the Valkcon ambassador. Captain Morrison and his crew risked their lives to save people they had never met. They revealed their greatest secret to protect my colony. While this council debated and made speeches, those humans acted. 3,000 Etheri children are alive today because of them. I will not stand here and listen to anyone call them deceptive or aggressive. Several other representatives voiced their agreement. Species who had suffered under Valkcon expansion saw humanity's actions as heroic, not threatening. The mood in the chamber began to shift. The council session continued for hours, with debates and arguments flowing back and forth. In the end, the council passed a resolution condemning the Valkcon attack on New Haven and praising humanity's intervention. The Valkcon ambassador stormed out in fury, but his protests fell on deaf ears. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Helen Carter sat in her office at Fleet Command, reviewing Captain Morrison's report. The document was thorough and honest, describing every decision made during the battle. Helen had read it 3 times already. There was a knock on her door. Come in, she called. A young officer entered and saluted. Admiral, the President is on secure line for you. Helen picked up the phone on her desk. Madam President. Helen, I just finished reading Morrison's report, the President said. Her voice sounded tired. Tell me honestly, did he make the right call? He saved 3,000 lives, Helen replied. The Etheri would be dead or enslaved right now if Jake had not acted. Yes, he exposed our stealth program. Yes, the galaxy knows we're more advanced than we let on. But I believe he made the right choice. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. So do I, the President said finally. But this changes everything, Helen. Every species in the galaxy is going to be watching us now. Some will want our technology. Others will see us as a threat. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. I'm already working on it, Helen said. I'm sending 3 more ships to Etheri space, all visible this time. I want the galaxy to see that we're serious about protecting our allies. I'm also recommending that we promote Morrison to Commodore and put him in charge of a new task force. A task force for what? For doing exactly what he did at New Haven, protecting species who cannot protect themselves, making it clear that humanity will not tolerate unprovoked aggression. The President was quiet for a moment, thinking it over. Do it, she said at last. But Helen, make sure Morrison understands the stakes. One wrong move could start a war. He understands, Madam President. Better than most. After the call ended, Helen sat back in her chair and looked at the star chart on her wall. Earth was marked with a blue dot, tiny and insignificant among billions of other stars. But that tiny blue dot had just announced itself to the galaxy in the loudest way possible. She wondered what the next year would bring. Would other species seek alliances with humanity? Would the Valkcons seek revenge? Would there be more colonies in need of protection? Only time would tell. But Helen was certain of one thing. Humanity had crossed a line. They could never go back to being the quiet newcomers, the species that other civilizations ignored or dismissed. Earth had stepped into the spotlight, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. On the space station Unity Prime, Ambassador Greg Palmer walked through the corridors after the council session ended. He was exhausted from hours of debate and political maneuvering. As he turned a corner, he found Speaker Thera waiting for him. "Ambassador Palmer," the Aetheri said, bowing slightly. "May I speak with you?" "Of course, Speaker." "I wanted to thank you personally," Thera said, "and to tell you that the Aetheri Collective wishes to establish formal ties with Earth. We have much to offer each other. Your strength and our medical knowledge could benefit both our peoples." Greg smiled. "I would like that very much. Perhaps some good can come from all this chaos." "More than you know," Thera replied. "Other species are watching what happened at New Haven. Many are impressed by humanity's courage. You may find that you have more friends in the galaxy than you realize." She bowed again and departed, leaving Greg alone in the corridor. He looked out through a nearby window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Falcon was still on patrol near New Haven. Jake and his crew had no idea how much their actions had changed things, but they would learn soon enough. The galaxy had taken notice of humanity, and there was no going back now.